What's the one thing that you didn't leave home without? Could it be your keys? Perhaps your wallet or your purse? Those are good answers. But I have a feeling that this little magical, all-in-one device tops the list. Now, this smartphone, it's not just a phone. It's your calculator, navigator, translator, social media device, alarm clock, instant pocket DJ, and of course, a camera. Now imagine you're doing your thing. You're playing around with your smartphone, and you're uploading fantastic weekend or vacation photos, sending an email, when this happens. One of those pop-ups. Software update available for version 2.0. I don't know what you do, but I'm going to be the first to admit that this index finger goes lightning fast and presses later. So what happens when I press later and you press later, because we all press later? Nothing. Immediately. But within weeks or months, eventually the device slows. Perhaps bugs appear. And then eventually, what happens? The device crashes. Something that is our lifeline that crashes, we revert back to children, don't we? We perhaps throw it against the wall, yell explicitives, and in my world, that means I revert to being a toddler. And I throw a full-blown adult temper tantrum. Now, although I started with technology, I'm not going to be talking about tech updates, but something very similar, life updates. And coincidentally, life serves us these updates at unexpected times, inopportune times. Let's just face it, when's a good time to flunk a course? Get in an accident, get fired, or go to the doctors and receive an unfavorable diagnosis. Never, never, and never. But these things happen, of which we have very little control, and to us all. They are some of our best teachers, and they mold us. What if we could add something to our lives and evolve to our best selves, our life 2.0, without necessarily this unpredictable schedule, and you do it on your terms? Well, that's what I'm going to share with you. Why should you trust me with something as important as your best life, your life 2.0? I could run down my accolades, that I've penned books, that I have various titles from universities, but what I divulge to you today did not come from a book, nor did it come from a classroom. What I share with you is my true story and why I hold an honorary doctorate from the School of Hard Knocks. Press rewind and go back 8 years. I had this picture-perfect world. I mean, a successful travel industry profession, jet-setting the globe, Paris and Berlin one week, London and Berlin the next. I was happily married, new home, large kitchen, 2-car garage, big backyard, and living a healthy lifestyle. Then, suddenly, having it all came to a screeching halt as I took out the trash. You may be wondering, why on earth would something that I do weekly and is rather mundane change someone's life and be a life update? As I exited the building with the last night's pizza box, I turned the corner to go to the dumpster. and my world went blank. The next thing I remember is awaking in the local trauma hospital 5 days later, and in an immobilization brace. Let's just step back for a moment. What would you feel if you didn't remember even a day, not 5 days, 1 day? Pretty darn scared. What about if that first moment that put you in present, you were in this brace? Terrifying. So my team of doctors put the pieces of my puzzle together for me, which included a 1,000-pound tree limb from 40 feet in the air struck me as I turned the corner to go to that dumpster, breaking my neck and leaving me unconscious in the driveway like a homicide sketch. Now, my prognosis was uncertain, but the only certainty was that I would undergo neurosurgery and that my recovery would be lengthy. 9 to 12 months limited to this brace, which I nicknamed my cage. Picture yourself in my cage. No traveling, no driving, and the worst, no showering. Then asking everyone to support me like a child. I was dependent. I was like an infant again, but in an adult body. The life that I described to you, it stopped in a moment. But it allowed me to look at my life under a microscope, in which I did see some of the good, but I also saw a lot of ugly. And the ugliest blow of this forced life update hit me underneath that cage. Maybe you've been lied to before in your life and you know how that just hits you right to the core. I discovered a trail of lies that my husband had been living a double life with another woman for a very long time. His lies hurt me more than that tree or any of its injuries could. The abbreviated version of this life update is that tree touched every facet of my being. My health was in peril, my marriage disintegrated in front of my very eyes, and you know that high-powered career that I talked about? They called me and forced me to resign. Everything that I held dear was lost. I call this moment a when all balls drop moment. And I know that I am not the only one in this room that has experienced something like this. And if you personally haven't, you know someone who's probably going through some trying times right now. And these moments, they force us to press that restart or reboot. So at that moment, I had a choice to rebuild the former life, life 1.0, or to evolve to a new life, a life 2.0. You now know that I chose the latter, and I am immensely proud to be standing here in front of you as a living example of post-traumatic growth. Now, I may be the first person that has used that term with you, but the opposite of PTSD does exist. And post-traumatic growth is the opportunity to find the upside and to positively grow from any loss or trauma. So after my PTG experience, I wanted to inspire others to overcome their obstacles, whether big or small, and to evolve to their own version of their best life, their life 2.0. So that's when I dove into that dissertation at the School of Hard Knocks to answer, can you get the same life update effect? Tapping into that power of perspective through adding something to your life and on your schedule. Now, it didn't come to me right away, but it did with time. And it's something that I am so passionate about. It is the life hack that no guru tells you about. That by adding adventure to your life, you can evolve to your best self, this life 2.0. Now, I saw a couple people that are probably running for the doors because they don't like adventure. They're not adventure junkies. They're not adrenaline junkies, mind you. Well, let me be the first to debunk the myth that you have to jump out of a perfectly good aircraft or tie yourself to a bungee cord and jump off a bridge to embrace adventure. Let's agree to something a little bit more broad in terms, that it's any new activity that's all-consuming, perhaps a little bit fearful, but it puts you in the zone. You feel that you have a heightened sense of clarity, you're focused. And for those of you that are familiar with meditation, this may sound like a familiar end result. And you're spot on, because I believe that adventure can be a form of meditation. And I'm going to prove it to you. Adventure can take many forms. People focus on physical adventure, but it can be emotional or mental as well. Examples of which? Entering the dating world after a dry spell. Mixtures of a few good dates and a lot of ones you don't want to remember. How about writing your first blog post or book and posting it or releasing it live to the world to read? Or even trying a new sport, like stand-up paddleboarding, when there is nothing going on in your mind except for staying on that wibbly, wobbly board. Now, some of my favorite adventures are adventures that encompass all of those, physical, emotional, and mental. Like going to a new destination and experiencing it like a kid again. New sights, smells, sounds, even tastes. My last adventure was to Iceland, the land of fire and ice. And my next adventure is a repeat adventure to an island not too far away, Cuba. But don't be fooled, because you don't have to travel halfway across the globe or even out of your hometown. You can have adventures anywhere, at any time. Discover your own hometown by a different mode of transportation. Rail, bike, Segway. Or just do your routine here backwards. You'll see it with new eyes. Now, I know that some of you are still on that adventure fence. I'm not completely getting her. Well, let me enlist Albert Einstein. Now, you know that quote that says, doing the same action over and over and expecting a different result? That's his definition of. So, yes, insanity, folks. Why on earth are we doing the same thing and expecting a different result? I also see some people that maybe are fearful. They're skittish of adventure. And you say, you know what? Too dangerous for me. Let me prove to you that routine can be dangerous. Has this ever happened to you? That you arrive at home, work, or school and you didn't remember driving there? You checked out, you were on autopilot, daydreaming, whatever, not paying attention to the road or dangers. Now that's dangerous. So I challenge you guys to take action on your own Life 2.0 by adding adventure. In order to evolve to this Life 2.0, I'm going to remind you of a couple things. That smartphone reference, what happens when we don't accept those updates? The device crashes. And the same happens in life. We need life updates and we need to evolve. You know why? You did basic biology and you know Darwin's law that all species need to adapt or they go extinct. And the same goes for human beings. Now, Life 2.0 is not the end result. It's not a point that you arrive at and don't go from there. It's a work in progress. And you betcha, life is going to help you out along the way with those fallen tree branches, those divorces, and also those layoffs. But by adding adventure updates to your life, you have 3 immediate beneficial side effects. Enhanced focus, increased energy, and the most important is you get so much better and faster at tapping into that power of perspective. So you are better prepared and resilient for when the you-know-what hits the fan. Stop pressing snooze on your own life updates. Start today on your Life 2.0 by honestly answering this question. What's your next adventure? Thank you.